How much weapons-grade nuclear material do you think it would take to level a city the size of San Francisco? How many of you think it would be an amount about the size of this suitcase? Okay, and how about this minibus? All right, well, actually, under the right circumstances, an amount of highly enriched uranium about the size of your morning latte would be enough to kill 100,000 people instantly. Hundreds of thousands of others would become horribly ill, and parts of the city would be uninhabitable for years, if not for decades. But you can forget that nuclear latte because today's nuclear weapons are hundreds of times more powerful even than those we dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And even a limited nuclear war involving, say, tens of nuclear weapons could lead to the end of all life on the planet. So it's really important that you know that right now we have over 15,000 nuclear weapons in the hands of 9 nations. And if you live in a city or near a military facility, one is likely pointed right at you. In fact, if you live in any of the rural areas where nuclear weapons are stored globally, one is likely pointed at you. About 1,800 of these weapons are on high alert, which means they can be launched within 15 minutes of a presidential command. And if you're paying any attention at all to cyber threats, or for instance, if you've read about the Stuxnet virus, or for God's sake, if you've ever had an email account or a Yahoo account or a phone hacked, you can imagine the whole new world of hurt that could be triggered by modernization in a period of cyber warfare. Now, if you're paying attention to the money, $1 trillion could go a long way to feeding and educating and employing people, all of which could reduce the threat of nuclear war to begin with. So, this is really crucial right now, because nuclear weapons, they're vulnerable. We have solid evidence that terrorists are trying to get a hold of them. And just this last spring, when 4 retirees and 2 taxi drivers were arrested in the Republic of Georgia for trying to sell nuclear materials for $200 million, they demonstrated that the black market for this stuff is alive and well. And it's really important because there have been dozens of accidents involving nuclear weapons, and I bet most of us have never heard anything about them. Just here in the United States, we've dropped nuclear weapons on the Carolinas twice. In one case, one of the bombs, which fell out of an Air Force plane, didn't detonate because the nuclear core was stored somewhere else on the plane. In another case, the weapon did arm when it hit the ground, and 5 of the switches designed to keep it from detonating failed. Luckily, the 6th one didn't. But if that's not enough to get your attention, there was the 1995 Black Brant incident. That's when Russian radar technicians saw what they thought was a US nuclear missile streaking toward Russian airspace. It later turned out to be a Norwegian rocket collecting data about the Northern Lights. But at that time, Russian President Boris Yeltsin came within 5 minutes of launching a full-scale retaliatory nuclear attack against the United States. Yeah. So, most of the world's nuclear nations have committed to getting rid of these weapons of mass destruction. But consider this. The Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, which is the most widely adopted arms control treaty in history, with 190 signatories, sets no specific date by which the world's nuclear-armed nations will get rid of their nuclear weapons.